Stranger Things has put the emphasis and focus on the journey of number 11 and her time at Hawkins Lab. But ever since we first saw that number placed on her wrist, we knew there were other kids involved at the lab. But who exactly are they? Well, today we're going to deep dive into the expanded universe of Stranger Things to showcase who the show has featured and what other forms of media have showcased to help fill in the various numbers. Oh yeah, there's a creepy set of twins that'll give those little Shining girls a run for their money as well.
Ever and ever.
The Hawkins Laboratory may have been shut down by the end of Stranger Things Season 2, but the building still holds a ton of secrets that are slowly getting revealed, both on the show and through media like books and comics. Among the biggest secrets we want to know, who the other numbers are. Of course, when the actual show dove into this, it created one of the most polarizing episodes of the series with the in-depth focus on 8, but there's a lot more interest in the other possible numbers. We'll get back to number 8 in a moment, but let's go over some of the other numbers we've learned about in recent months. One of the biggest expansions on the whole Hawkins Lab number system came in the comic book miniseries entitled 6. The title naturally introduces us to 6, whose real name is revealed to be Francine. The abilities that drew 6 to Hawkins Lab and under the clutches of Dr. Brenner include the ability to see the future. When her parents discovered these powers, they used them for good, saving the lives of others and helping out the community and just kidding. They manipulated her, took advantage of her ability to see the future, and basically pawned their daughter to win the lottery. Through the panels of the comic miniseries, we see many connections between 6 and 11. They both seem to have a moral compass where they want to use their powers for good instead of unleashing chaos on the world or going on a crime spree. 6 is the first person to ever use the sensory deprivation tank that 11 drops into during Season 1. The tank is supposed to give 6 the best location to harness her powers, focus on specific details, and use them for even longer. Through her sensory deprivation tank visions, 6 is able to visualize 11's future full of Eggo waffles and some darker images including visions of the Demogorgons. And despite 11 having no memories of 6 on the show, 6 and 11 actually met in the Rainbow Room, along with 8. The meeting was brief, but helped make the connection so 6 could visualize her future while in the tank. Once Dr. Brenner becomes aware of these powers, he enlists someone to help recruit her. He's one of the earliest numbers we've ever met in the Stranger Things franchise, number 3. His real name is Ricky, and he's the first male patient at Hawkins Lab we've met. His powers could be compared to a Jedi's mind trick. Ricky can basically convince anyone to like him and often uses his powers against unsuspecting Hawkins Lab workers. He could have a run of the place, but seems to believe in the mission Dr. Brenner is on and even helps recruit 6 along the way. The journey between Ricky and Francine is the core of the 6 miniseries and features the two connecting through their powers. And just like 11, we see the signature trickle of blood come from their nose when their powers are used. But the lovers with powers are not the only numbers we meet in the comic miniseries. There are 2 others, but oddly, they're not 2 separate numbers. Meet 9 and 9.5. The girls are a pair of twins with combustion and heat powers. It'd be one thing to name the twins 9A or 9B, but to actually pick one of the girls and name them as 9.5 just seems kind of rude. Oh hey, your sister's a whole number, but you're not good enough for the whole 10 thing, so we'll give you 9.5. Twin problems. Anyway, these twins clearly don't have their powers under control. Brenner found the duo after their childhood home was mysteriously burnt down. The rest of the details are few and far between, but Dr. Brenner probably faked their deaths in the Inferno and opened up the opportunity for them to come to Hawkins Lab. And things only got worse from there. For example, instead of lighting some charcoal on fire, one of the twins ends up burning a guy to death from the inside out. The attack would be a great way to stop a Demogorgon, but they definitely have to master these powers first. So now let's do some quick math here. Assuming 11 is the last of the numbers before Hawkins Laboratory shuts down, we have numbers 1 to 10 to account for. After already covering 3, 6, 8, and the 9 twins, there are many spots for other Hawkins numbers we're unaware of. This includes 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, and 10. While there is no direct confirmation, there have been numerous hints at who or what these numbers might be. For some of these answers, we can look to the Stranger Things prequel book, Suspicious Minds. The book mainly follows 11's mother Terry and Dr. Brenner's journey in discovering people with powers, but has some pretty big revelations. Side note, Besides diving into Kali's backstory as number 8, the book revealed the truth about Eleven's father. Dr. Brenner forced him to draft in the Vietnam War, where he perished during a battle on the front lines. Dr. Brenner's evil ways were all completely focused on tapping into the human mind, something he seemed to be doing for years. In the prologue of the book, Brenner escorts Kali to the facility for the first time, and the narrative in the story discusses Brenner's previous experiments. One sentence stands out among the others. Thus far, the other subjects' abilities had proven disappointing. The vague statement is a clear reference to other numbers Brenner has worked with before, perhaps even referring to the comic book characters who end up defying him. While the book mainly focuses on Eleven's mother and Kali, there is another character who piqued a lot of interest: the young Alice Johnson. The character was nameless when appearing in an image for the first season of Stranger Things, but the book brings her to life. The image in question briefly appears in the 3rd episode of the first season, entitled Holly Jolly. As Hopper researches Dr. Brenner to find out more information on Eleven, we see a picture with 6 different nameless patients Brenner once experimented on. It's from this picture which the Suspicious Minds novel was born. And while Alice Johnson never does have a number in the book, given the timeline, she could have easily been assigned as 5 or 7. Much like number 6, Alice also sees visions of the future and seemingly visited the Upside Down during one of these visions. She was also able to see Eleven's birth, Terry's torture, and was the first person to ever have a clear visual of the Demogorgon, especially considering that the story takes place years before number 6 had a similar vision of her own. Alice fits the mold to get assigned a number, but she may not have had enough time at the lab for Brenner to even assign her a number. After several troubling experiments, Terry decides to help her escape and fakes her demise along the way. The plan actually works. Alice escapes to Canada, where in the current Stranger Things timeline, she's still alive. Dr. Brenner assumes she's passed away, and this loose end may come into play in the actual show in the future, maybe even confirming that Alice actually was assigned a number at one point. So with one of the other middle numbers taken up with Alice, one big question still lingers: who's number 1? While the show has been pretty vague about this, and Season 3 shifted away from the Hawkins Laboratory history altogether, there were some clues about who number 1 could be. The answer? The Mind Flayer. A popular theory has come up in recent months that the Mind Flayer is actually number 1. After going through Dr. Brenner's intense experiments and testing, the mind powers of number 1 sent him or her into the alternate reality known as the Upside Down. Through a physical transformation and pure survival skills, the person transformed into the Mind Flayer and learned how to survive in the world. Season 3 went even deeper into the Mind Flayer's motives and purpose. The character clearly targeted Eleven and wanted to eliminate her, either through jealousy, rage, or some sort of connection through Hawkins Lab. And when looking at the other numbers, the Mind Flayer's powers are a little similar to Ricky, aka number 3. The Mind Flayer has the ability to manipulate others, and pushes these powers even further when literally hosting itself in their body. These powers seem very similar to the same types of subjects Dr. Brenner is working with, and could have been the basis for how his experiments began. For Dr. Brenner, one of the main issues is always losing control of his patients. Which brings us back to the line about his other subjects being disappointing. Number 1's escape into the Upside Down may have been unknown to Dr. Brenner until Eleven came along and opened the gate. Once the gate was opened, Dr. Brenner may have put the pieces together and discovered his initial experiment as the one raising so much havoc in Hawkins. Despite the human rat monster form of the Mind Flayer getting destroyed at the climax of Stranger Things Season 3, the creature still very much exists in the Upside Down, and its journey is not over yet. When we see the Mind Flayer return in Season 4, we may go even deeper into its origin and the possibility of being number 1. In fact, the only way to defeat number 1 may be to bring some other numbers into the fold. The revelation of Dr. Brenner being alive could lead Eleven on a journey to discover the rest of the numbers and connect with others who were at the labs. And if there's any one of these people who knew number 1, it could be number 2. Yeah, we're starting to sound like an Austin Powers sketch now.
My name is number 2.
But so far, Ricky, number 3, didn't seem to have any information about 1 or 2, so maybe the first 2 experiments were working together. In all likelihood, some of these numbers have probably perished as well. What are the odds that every single one of these subjects has survived Dr. Brenner's intense experiments and exposure to various types of drugs? This is why we have a theory that number 10 is likely a goner. 11 was at Hawkins Lab at the same time as 8, and we never heard anything about a number 10. The person could have perished while 11 was young, and something would have likely come up or been mentioned either through the details given in Season 1 or in the backstory presented in the Suspicious Minds novel. Now we're the ones left with the suspicious minds about where exactly number 10 is located. Even the twins, 9 and 9.5, have never even hinted at the whereabouts of number 10. So as 11 looks for a way to defeat the Mind Flayer once and for all, we may see a gathering of all these numbers. Characters like 3 could come alive from the pages of the comics, and we could see the live-action debut of numbers like 4 and 5. Alice may return from Canada, and 8 could return as well to help round out the group. The end result would be a super mashup, not too far off from the Avengers. By working together, these characters could not only stop the Mind Flayer, but bring Dr. Brenner to justice as well. And with a group of people with such extraordinary powers, they all may be able to venture off into the Upside Down and take on the Mind Flayer on its home turf. While Season 3 ventured off into different story arcs, we have no doubt that we will slowly learn about all the other kids who were experimented on in Hawkins Lab. How deep do these numbers go? Do you want to see more of them debut on the show in Season 4? Could the Mind Flayer actually be number 1? Is 11 the most powerful among them? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to ScreenRant for more great content.